Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gamers Gambit, the show where a bunch of us nerdy ass YouTubers sit around and talk about all things gaming. I'm donHaize, and before we jump into today's episode, we have an awesome announcement to make. So, Greg from eGregious Games, who's been with us from the start, has decided to join the channel proper like. So, he's now officially one of us. So,
Indeed.
welcome to the dark side, my friend. Glad to have you on board.
I'm not leaving
Yeah.
anymore. See you later.
More of a formality than anything. I've pretty much been here since the start, but now properly, officially, on board.
One of us.
Absolutely. No, that's awesome. So you can look forward to more of our banter and us jumping on each other's thoughts and opinions. And reaction videos. Hopefully, we're doing more of them as well. So that'd be awesome.
Just three old men having a good old rant.
Just a couple of guys, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, something like that.
But yeah, we've also got Killjoy, so our co-host. So yeah, let's jump into tonight's episode.
Yeah, it's the resident bad boy. So today, it's kind of a topic I really wanted to talk about because it's been on my mind lately, and that is the art of trailers for video games and kind of like what makes a good trailer. And I know that's a very subjective thing, but I kind of wanted to get the ideas of these guys because if you do follow my stuff, you would have seen I've been talking about kind of the same stuff a little bit recently, but like going on about like how I think trailers should be done and my kind of views on it. And I've had discussions with these guys, but I thought, you know what, let's bring it to the masses. Let's actually talk about this on the podcast and kind of get it out there. And I think we've all going to have quite a lot of interesting things to say on it. So just to give you guys a rundown, is primarily the question is, what do each of us think makes a good trailer or a bad trailer, and kind of like how, our own preferences on that. Because Jack, he's into the cinematic stuff, loves the cinematic trailers. I'm more into the gameplay side of it, and I think we're going to have different opinions on that, but I also think we're going to have some interesting ideas brought to that. Whereas Greg, I know, is not really that fucked about trailers, really, like until more recently. And I think that's going to be also interesting as well. So I'll just pass it around to you guys. I guess just quickly to start things off before we deep dive into good and bad and all that other stuff. Just what are your thoughts on trailers and what their uses are and all that good stuff? We'll start with you, Greg.
Sure. I think what you said before about like I'm not that into trailers. It's an interesting point because like I can talk about trailers a lot. Trailers are important. But I think to me, I'm a person who I like to almost enjoy the pure experience of something. So if I know I want to play something, or if I know I want to experience something, I think the experience of watching a trailer can often detract from it. There are things I would almost rather see for the first time in the cinema or, in the game. So yeah, there's that temptation of thinking, if I already know I want to do this, play this, whatever, I shouldn't watch the trailers. I shouldn't spoil too much for myself. But here's the thing. There are films that I wasn't planning to watch. So I was like, okay, I might as well watch the trailer because I'm not going to watch it anyway. But I might discover there's something good. And then you watch the trailer and you're like, actually, that looks pretty good. And that's what the purpose of a trailer is. It's to make someone who wasn't interested in your thing, interested in your thing. Whatever it takes. And I can go on at length about that, but I think I should probably pass on to Jack and let you have a few words.
Yeah, so again, echoing that, I mean, trailers are so important. They are like the marketing tool for games companies to try and get you hooked and interested. So I think you have to have a good mix of cinematics. For someone like me who loves cinematics, that's going to be the thing that gets you interested in the first instance. And then you need to follow that up with good gameplay so that people can actually see what the game actually is, because more often than not, the cinematic is going to be very different to the gameplay trailer. The animated video is going to be, let's get you hooked. As soon as you're hooked, let's give you an idea of actually what the game is, and let's talk about the guides and that type of thing, and get you more interested in the actual gameplay side, because ultimately is the game you're playing, but it has to have a good story, a good narrative, and a interesting sort of cinematic journey.
Yeah, you got to think of trailers like this, right? The trailers are usually especially if it's a reveal trailer or an announcement trailer, are the first time you're going to see a sequel, a new IP, whatever it is. And it's massively important that to the developers, when they show off this trailer, they are trying to drum up as much hype and excitement and essentially pre-orders for that product. That's what they're there for. They are a marketing tool. And I think it's really interesting how, my favorite trailers, I think, are ones that have half cinematic, half gameplay. And those, I'll get on to later with some examples. But I think usually those are the ones that I think of in my head are usually the best trailers, where you get like a cool cinematic part and then you get the gameplay afterwards, but you get like enough to be able to get a taste of what the game is. And I think they work for me personally. Anyway, those are the ones that work for me. There's nothing wrong with having a split trailer, like having just a cinematic or just a gameplay one. But I think when you kind of combine both and you do it right with nice pacing, it's a great way to be like, oh, look at these cool characters, and then like, oh shit, look at this gameplay. And I think that's usually the best way to do it. And as we've seen in recent times, and trailers must be hard to cut together. I think certain companies are better at it than other companies, but you're never going to make everybody happy. But I think there are things you can and you can do, and there's things you shouldn't do that will vary from game to game, which will either appeal to people or not. And I think, again, that's stuff that we'll get into. But yeah, that's cool. I just want to get your guys' like general ideas on it. So whether you want to start with like good or bad trailers is entirely up to you, or expand on these points, because I'll get, you guys have unfortunately heard the same shit to me, and it's going to be again in this. So I'll let you guys take it away. But like, Greg, if there's anything, there's like, good trailers or bad trailers that you can think of, or just stuff you want to expand.
I wanted
on.
to add on to your point.
Yeah.
What you were saying about trailers are a marketing tool, and pragmatically, that's essentially what they are. But at the same time, I think they are an art in a way that they're like the purest form of cinematography in some ways. You have to tell a story in a minute or so, and it's again specifically for games, it's about conveying your game in a minute or so, and there are some really great artistic, flashy, clever ways you can do that. And I was just reading this article today about Hideo Kojima, maybe a bit of a twonk, but he is exceptionally good at trailers. He is exceptionally good at sort of selling a story.
It is an art, to be honest, because I can think of trailers in my head where I'm like, holy shit, that's hype as hell, and I'm just like stunned. I mean, quick example, the Advance Wars reboot trailer. I wasn't expecting that at all. When I was watching E3, I firstly wasn't expecting that game to come back. I know that it's a remaster. I know that it's a series I already love. But going through that trailer, like afterwards, and like what bringing out, it's like character models, gameplay, all this stuff, bam, 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 bam. It was just literally to the music. It was almost like you had the music was perfectly timed, and a lot of the gameplay that was shown to the announcements that were going on in it. And like, after I'd come down from Cloud9 and watched it, I was like, you know what, that worked as a trailer. That sold me. Now I will say, people weren't a massive fan of the art style necessarily in that trailer. I had no problem with it, but to me that was just like it was almost like I was so shocked by the announcement that trailer, like I was sold, instantly sold. I was like, take my money right now, like pre-order the game like straight away after, as soon as I could. And I love it.
I don't know how much that has to do with the quality of the trailer as much as it simply did with it being Advance Wars.
But they could have showed anything, mate.
No. That trailer was a good trailer, because
it's a picture of a logo, Advance Wars.
Yeah, that's it. He's gone, guys. He's gone.
So they did for Metroid Prime 4. Like we've got nothing to show you, but here's a logo.
But Advance was, you got the gameplay. It demonstrated you got a cool look at the artistic style of the characters when they do the CO powers and stuff, and a bit about the dialogue, and you got a nice presentation. But you got to see, all right, it is a turn-based game. They are not the most popular franchise, but it had a cute art style, and the music unfortunately did a lot for me in that trailer. And I think that music can massively make a trailer like significantly better or worse. But definitely, if I take that out of context, right, just be like a casual Advance Wars fan, I would have watched that. I genuinely think that was a fun trailer. It was like, here's just a version of this game that we've made, 15, 13 years later. We're bringing it to Switch, a couple games, and it was all the information you wanted. It was all the gameplay, and that was just like, wow, man! Like that to me was like successful. People were gonna buy the shit out of that. Like, I really, really believe that they just made a fantastic trailer for a franchise that is tiny, honestly. And that's how I kind of judge certain things. When you look at like Sony and their trailers, or you look at like Microsoft. I mean, fucking hell, the reveal trailers for like Forza Horizon 5, is it, at E3? Like, me and Jack were watching it, and I was like, I'm not even a car game fan that much, and I was like, I need this game in my life. Like, that was incredible. Like, it's so weird what when I see trailers, like what should be going on and stuff, and I'm like, I'm really recently just thinking about like what is it that in a trailer that sells to a person? Like, what is it? Is it, because it varies if it's a sequel versus a new IP? Because a sequel, if you've played a racing game and there's a sequel, you don't really need to, you probably don't need as much of the gameplay unless there's massive changes. Versus a new IP where you can probably get away with just showing off a cinematic trailer and then showing the gameplay 6 months later, because no one knows what the game is up, and whereas a sequel you've kind of got expectations. It's really interesting. I think there's quite a lot more to it that just sort of surprised me thinking about it. But yeah, like, do you guys want to, Jack? I mean, do you want, if you've got any things you want to expand on, or if you want to just talk about good and bad examples of trailers, like carry on.
Okay, let's go over some good examples
All right.
then. So for me, Elder Scrolls Online does a fantastic job of drawing you in with the cinematics. They've got plenty of gameplay trailers as well to boot, but the actual cinematics, people love that stuff, and they keep coming back because they want to see what happens in the next season. Or they'll go to Morrowind and then Oblivion, and then they'll go to different areas, and people just get hype over that. And then they'll show the gameplay trailer as a separate entity. So they're just constantly providing seasonal content, and even though I don't necessarily play the game, I have in the past, but I don't necessarily follow the actual game itself, but I do follow all the cinematics. And there's been times where I'm like, oh my god, that looks so good, and then I've almost gone into, or in sometimes I actually have gone back and actually played the game just off the back of the cinematic being so awesome. I'm like, do you know what, that does look pretty cool. Another example would be, say, EVE Online, which do a fantastic job of just hyping up their cinematic trailers and their new season, and it's just, there's so much going on, and it just gets you involved in the universe. And again, it's a game I don't follow or play, but it is a game that I'm always interested in when the next cinematic comes out, and it's like, damn, that looks so cool.
Yeah.
And I've put videos out for likes of EVE Online and Elder Scrolls, and there's so many people comment on it saying this is such a cool cinematic, and how they're gonna go back to playing the game after like 2 years because the cinematic is so awesome. And that's the sign of a really good marketeer. Like, if you can capture people's interest time and time again, and just people keep coming back to that game, it means they've done a really good job on the cinematics. And obviously the gameplay is a different side of things, so having a really good gameplay trailer is also really important, because especially for new IPs where people might not necessarily know what the game is, or how it plays, you have to be able to showcase like gameplay, because it's one thing to have really good cinematics, but in the same token, you've kind of it's got to be true to the game. You do see it from time to time where a game is very cinematically focused, but it's not true to what the game is. I think League of Legends is kind of similar to that, in the sense that the cinematic is absolutely amazing. Like, what they've created is a cinematic masterpiece, and something that I'm really interested in. And I've actually played the game off the back of it. But what the game is compared to what the cinematics are kind of different. I know they're like cinematic trailers of characters and of the legends that are in the game. But when you compare like the cinematics to the gameplay, it's almost like night and day, completely different games.
Yeah.
So there's a fine line between hyping someone up about playing your game, and then when the person then getting there being like, wait, what? This isn't what advertised. Like, this is completely different. It's like I'm playing a completely different game. But in the same token, League do an absolutely fantastic job of hyping players.
Mm.
In fact, way more so than Dota. Like, there was a time where I was like, I'm done with Smite. I need to find another game. And I went to League because their cinematics were so damn good, whereas Dota's were kind of bland. So that's why I ended up going towards League, because that was what enticed me. I was interested in the lore. I wanted to know more about the lore, wanted to know more about the game. And then before I know it, I'm like, 50 hours into playing the game. I'm like, damn, that happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's you got to have a good mix of cinematography and gameplay, but don't go too far away from what the game actually is. If you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Another note as
Yeah.
well on EVE Online, just a cool thing that they do, like over and above that, is they've got like their own kind of internal TV show or like news feed. So
Yes.
it's like BBC News type of thing, but their version of it. It's so awesome. Like it's weird. It's like watching like a TV show, but it's about the game and it's like what's going on. Like, this kind of last 3 months, this thing has happened, and they'll talk about all the conflicts and how the economy's gone up or down, and it just keeps people hype as hell, man. Because it's like, oh wow, I was part of that like clan that are being talked about and being like a focus in this like news thread or news feed. It's just so cool. It's like just like the added layer of like interest. And one other example I'm going to give is Apex Legends, where they do like stories from the Outlands. So for those that don't know, I'm sure most do by now, but Apex Legends is a continuation and set as like a futuristic version of Titanfall. So off the back of Titanfall 2, Apex Legends is set, I think it's like 50 years in the future. And what they do is they not only do they do like series, like seasonal content, they'll introduce characters part of the sort of Titanfall universe, and they'll then do like stories from the Outlands, which kind of goes into the lore and into the background of these characters and how, and it kind of like feeds you little bits of information from like the Titan 2 universe and what happened in between, because no one really knows. It's kind of gone from Titanfall 2 and then bam, 50 years in the future. And what they do every season is they bring out more of these stories from the Outlands. So you kind of get more of a picture of what happened between Titanfall 2 and Apex. It's bloody awesome. Like, again, it's a game that I don't play, but I follow drastically because I'm like, I need to know what happened. Like, they keep teasing the fact there may or may not be a Titanfall 3. I'm like, one day I'm hoping they will do a Titanfall 3, but that's kind of like just my juice is like, God, just give me more of that.
Well, that juicy lore.
Definitely. So yeah, those are like what my good things are, and kind of a few things to be aware of, I suppose.
Yeah, Greg, I don't know if you want to got any examples.
Yeah, I got a few little branches, because when it comes to me, like, I'm not sold by cinematics really at all. Like, I will watch them like I will watch a movie. Like, I could enjoy a trailer by itself, but it won't get me to play the game unless there's gameplay. And I was thinking that to myself. I was saying that, going like, yeah, I'm not really into those things. And then I remember there's a really good example of a game. Well, before I even go about that, I wanted to talk about the best trailers showing cinematics and gameplay and weaving them together to tell a story. And just one really good example of a game that did that is the Avowed teaser, which is the sequel to Pillars of Eternity. And it's kind of an attempt by Obsidian to take on the Outer Scrolls, because it's first person. So Avowed, you get this is just a very short teaser, kind of a sweeping over the landscape and showing. So it is a cinematic, but then the cinematic seamlessly transitions into what I assume is still a cinematic, but representing gameplay. You get to this first person shot where the player character then draws the sword and the magic or whatever it is. It's been a while since I watched that trailer, but it brings you into the first person, and I think that's a really great little teaser.
Is that the one with the arrow? Where he fires the arrow and it just flies the entire trailer?
I can't remember. I feel maybe that's an Elder Scrolls Online one, but it's been so long since I watched it. But this reminded me of the OG game that I loved as a kid and I still love today, and it's kind of inspiring the game that I'm working on, which is Alundra. I don't know if either of you have ever seen the Alundra trailer or intro.
I know the name. I know the name, but that's about it.
Yeah. Well, it's basically shot like a lot of trailers are these days. Like that other rogue-like game that I'm going to kill myself for.
Hades?
No. Anyway, they have these 90s kind of animated intro trailers, but in the case of Alundra, it's interspersed with gameplay. So it'll show, like, in this 90s animation style, Alundra facing off against this big dragon with like an ice wand. And then it transitions to the actual boss fight where he's fighting that dragon. So it's like, oh, that's not just a bullshit cinematic, it's in the game. And other little bits like that, there's like falling rocks he's got to like run away from, and then it cuts to that part of the game. That gets you so hyped because it's like, holy shit. Like, it's how I'm seeing it in my head as a kid wanting to like live a cartoon, and I actually can. So that is a great example of a trailer that I loved. But yeah, other than that, it's weird because when a trailer hypes me, I want to resist the hype because I want to wait until gameplay sells me. But a good gameplay trailer can sell me. There's a really great Game Maker's Toolkit video on this, on how to make an indie trailer and all of the components of this. But I want to talk about one last example. This is a really good one. Kind of similar to Elder Scrolls Online, but not at all. Final Fantasy 14 patch trailers. So every new big patch that comes out, they kind of sell the new dungeons and features. And there was a really great one out during Heaven's Ward where they show all of these dungeons and they show a bit of like player housing, and it goes from like big dramatic story moments where like, oh, we're showing you just enough of this story and then cutting away at the right point, which is, you know, an art in of itself. Like, where do you cut? Do you show the spoiler, or do you hint that there's a spoiler? That's a whole question. But whoever's making those trailers is brilliant at showcasing all the little bits of gameplay and going from these dramatic story beats to like funny, cute little things, a new gold saucer minigame that they're adding to a new hairstyle. And it kind of dials down. It gets your interest with the big flashy stuff. And then you're watching this 10-minute trailer for a patch. And they're fantastic.
Yeah, I've actually seen some of the World of Warcraft patch trailers, and they were surprisingly not what I was expecting them to be. I thought they'd be just really boring, but they were kind of cool. It's like, now you can fight these guys. Whoa! I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of hype. I have two trailers or two games that I think have fantastic trailers. We'll start with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, because the Everyone Is Here trailer is like the hypest shit I have ever seen. That trailer is fantastic. There's no cinematic. It just starts off with a shot of Battlefield being the name of the level. Mario comes up the pipe, jumps up, and you see in the bottom right, Mario 1, right? Or one number of it. And he comes up, does the wahoo thing, and then they zoom in on him and he does some moves. So it's kind of like a really long gameplay trailer. So you see the character and then you see a little bit of their gameplay. And what's really cool about it, the entire time you've got in the bottom left, it's the bottom left, they shows you the character, who it is, and the number. And the music is like the first time you kind of hear the music's playing along. Oh, this is pretty cool. And then you get the first reveal. It's like, oh shit, they're bringing back the Ice Climbers. You're like, okay, cool, that's awesome. Like, people wanted the Ice Climbers in the last game, right? Okay, boom. Oh, they're bringing back like Cloud. And they keep building this up where they're showing off like, oh, Pokemon trainers back. And you're like, hang on a minute. Are they bringing everyone back? And then, boom, Solid Snake appears on the screen. The music stopped. It just says, everyone is here. And then it goes to Pichu and Jigglypuff. The music fucking hits harder. And then you just get to see every single character that's ever been in a Smash. And you're just like, oh my god, they're back! Oh my god, they're back! And even though they've clearly just told you they're all back, you're just like, fucking hell, younglings, back in the game! You know, it's been like 10 years. You know,
I think always the most effective advertising is when you can get people to repeat your tagline. When people start going on the forums going, everyone is here, then it's like, yeah, you've won. Now they're doing the advertising for you.
And what makes that trailer so fun is that it's all in game. There is none of it's fake, none of it's bullshit. Maybe the camera angles, because you can't do that without a dev kit. And it was just like, I remember sitting there, and then right at the end, in the original trailer, you get the memorial shot of all the artwork of them on it, and it's just like, holy shit! Like I've just had a heart attack. Like
Wish I
holy
could have
shit!
seen your reaction to that trailer.
Oh well, see, sticking with Smash. Now, I do believe Smash has the best character reveal trailers, which do use cinematics and gameplay, and they have some amazing ones. But I specifically, let me get in trouble for this, phoned in sick to work one day because there was a Nintendo Direct on specifically just for Smash, and they showed off Dark Samus, they showed off Simon and Richter Belmont, they showed off Chrom, and right at the end of the trailer, it's Cannonball Fire fades to black. Like Donkey and Diddy and this fucking amazing cinematic. And I'm like, you thought I was excited about the Advance Wars trailer. I was like, the entire time, like, K. Rool coming back. Like, oh, K. Rool's going to be in the game. And they show this trailer and, you know, his fucking stomping and they look out the window and it's King Dedede faking it. And you're like, oh, you bastards, you fucking with my feelings. And then he comes in and swipes him out of the way. And I punched the floor so hard I bruised both my hands. And it was that the music kicks in, you get the gameplay. It's like, oh my god, like Smash has the best character trailers. If you've never seen them, watch Banjo's, watch K. Rool's, watch Terry's. Holy shit, they put so much love and attention, and you get cinematic and you get gameplay, and then more cinematic at the end, and it's like, I've never been so much hyped in my life. I wish I had the reaction.
Heartstrings. They troll you. That's always just great for getting people engaged.
Yeah, and they do the thing with the Banjo trailer. You're like, this is the Donkey Kong trailer, but wait, the fuck, K. Rool's there. And then the Jiggy bounces across the screen. You're like, holy shit, it's Banjo. And then they pull the same trick. We're like, oh no, it's Duck Hunt Dog. But we're like, we know what you're up to, Sakurai. Like, and then obviously Banjo is it, and you know, Hero as well. Like, all the trailers are just so well put together. Even Minecraft Steve, I didn't expect that. I was like, that was the opposite reaction. I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, but they do such a fantastic job of like keeping it, like, a lot of this doesn't leak, a lot of the newer stuff, but just seeing these trailers, they're just fantastic. I honestly can't think of a game that does character trailers better than Smash. They are. He's a smart cookie, Sakurai. I'll tell you that. Like, he knows how to put like the love and attention into his trailer, and he puts a lot of humor in them as well, which is really, really good. The other trailer that's fairly fresh that I want to talk about is the Metroid Dread trailer, the original reveal trailer. Because since then, I think Nintendo went a bit too far and kind of shown off too much. But that trailer was really cool. We had like this weird cinematic into gameplay thing again, but they did everything right. They were like, Metroid 5 comes up to start with, you're like, holy shit, we're actually the story's going on, so that's already hype. And then you see Samus in this cool new suit in this like new environment, and then this fucking robot appears, and you realize, oh wait, the arm cannon doesn't work. Oh wait, the missiles don't work. And as she you get that transference from the cinematic to her running, and then you got the gameplay, and you're like, holy shit, it's a side-scrolling Metroid game. Oh my god! And then she gets murdered. This chap just gets murdered in the trailer, and then you get to see these snippets of gameplay, like how fast it is, like the improvements on the melee counter, improvements on these different things, and then we get a bit more of like the cinematics with the robots and things, and you know, I think halfway through the trailer to a bit right at the end, you know, it's like Metroid 5, and then it's like Dread, and it's like, okay, you fucking won just by having that name on this trailer, and that trailer was phenomenal. So again, sold me right there. I didn't lose my mind when I saw it, but I was extremely happy because I was like, I love these games, these side-scrolling games, and I really think that trailer, again, perfect example of cinematics into gameplay into some cinematic. They combine the two, and for me personally, that works best because I don't want to just get hyped on the cinematic. I'm like, show me some fucking gameplay. Just show me some gameplay. Come on. But to see that they were willing to do, you know, are still willing to do this 2D side-scrolling style or 2.5D. You know, I know some people look at it and go, "Oh, it's 2D." It's like, nah, fuck off. Like, there's a reason why this works. You know, and just everything, just going through the trailer multiple times and just seeing everything, it was just like, wow, what a reveal trailer. Like, I mean, yes, it's a sequel to a franchise people really, really, really want, and yes, they're using a name from technically for like.
It's gonna say that other trailers can't do that because it's harvesting seeds that were laid 20 years before, pretty much.
Yeah,
like,
and
that's real hype.
What made me laugh, it's like, so I saw it and I mentioned it to Greg. I think it was just, oh, Greg, they got Metroid trailer, and you were like, I think quite casually, like, I'll go watch it. And next thing, it's like, holy shit, it was like underneath. And it is like for people that are like diehard Metroid fans, like Nintendo's most adult franchise.
Am a big diehard Metroid
Exactly.
fan. Those who see my channel will know that.
Yeah, and I mean, I love Metroid. I'm more of the side scroller than the 3D ones. I don't know why. I just don't get on with them that much. But I love the Metroidvania. I mean, this is a franchise that started a whole half a genre. You know, the whole Metroidvania thing, and it's such an important franchise. And I really hope that trailer just sold millions of copies for them, because this franchise is one of Nintendo's best atmospheric franchises, some of the best storytelling they've ever done. Like, it is fucking sublime in so many. Like, the fact that this game came out at the same time as Halo did, and like on the GameCube still looks amazing, has some fucking incredible storytelling. But it's optional if you like. But just to have this game come out, and I'm like, oh my god, this game could sell like 5 million copies, and like we could have more Metroid games. And yeah, that trailer was just. I could keep going on and on, but that trailer was like fucking phenomenal, and really, really is like, to me, that's how you do a trailer. You have it fast and snappy, and you have the atmospheric music, and you make Samus like this powerful badass feel weak to start with. You know she's going to be powerful by the end of it.
And you show the ending of the story. You show the ending of the game.
Yes. No.
That's what everyone wants to see in the trailer.
Yeah. No. So
Final boss. Good luck.
Well,
start preparing
later
now.
Later on, they did show, unfortunately, quite a big spoiler in one of their trailers. I don't want to go into it now, but I mean, it could be very early on in the game. But I'm like, this is a character that people have wanted back in a game. It's technically quite a minor character in some instances, but a very iconic looking boss from some of the old games. And to just chuck that in was a bit random, but again, hype as fuck. I'm not gonna lie, but
that's the point. I think you have to build the hype. That's probably what it was. It was just building the hype to begin with.
I mean, it's the beginning of the game, so it's still, as far as the story goes, them not showing that would be the equivalent of doing a Blade Runner 2049, where you find out in the first 15 minutes of the film that the main character is a replicant, but they never tell you that in the trailer. The trailer is so pure, and that would be an art form, but this is not doing that. No, it's willing to show you the start of the story, like, look, there's a Chozo in this time, possibly two.
And what's crazy about it is, there's so much intrigue. I mean, they've showed a lot of gameplay. They've showed off tons of new items, tons of these characters, and my intrigue is through the roof. I'm like, how is this game going to end? Why is this character that hasn't been in like the last 4 games like suddenly back? Like, there's so much stuff there where I'm like, well, I don't need any more. I don't need another trailer at this point. Like, I've got everything I could want, and hats off to Nintendo. They know how to make a fucking good trailer. Like, I'd say that much. Like, really, really good. And Jack, you probably, I don't know if you've seen. Actually, no, I think you saw my reaction to it.
I watched both of your reactions.
Yeah, like that trailer. Maybe not for you, like whatnot, but I love that combination of just very fast and snappy. Like, everything you would want to know about that game, I think, is pretty much, in terms of gameplay wise, is in those trailers and stuff. So I think that really works. But
it is a good trailer. I didn't have any nostalgia for it. So I think that's the difference between you and me, is I've not really played the Metroid series, whereas you guys have. So obviously it's a lot more meaningful to you.
Yeah, there is that, because, you know, like if me and Greg are watching it, we're like, holy shit, it's a spider ball, or like, holy shit, it's like ice missiles, which has only appeared once before. You're like, oh wow, they're like, and to be fair, this Metroid game seems to have every upgrade ever in it. I'm like, how is this all going to work? But you know, it does. Nostalgia obviously has a big part in it, but it was just, I think it was just so out of the blue in a lot of ways.
When I see a Chozo, I'm like, you know, if Jack were to see the same thing, it's like, oh, a bird metal cool. That's cool. Whereas I'm like, holy shit, a Chozo, they've been dead for 30 years. There was the race to raise Samus and all of this. So there are some things that you have to be a fan.
And that's what makes it crazy, because this is the first time you've encountered one in game, and he's out to kill you, and you're like, what the fuck is going on?
What's happening?
Or is he trying to test you? It's like, this is why I love it, because I literally have no idea. But do you know what made that trailer cool? They made Samus such a fucking badass in that trailer, right? There's a bit where he goes to attack
for other M.
Yeah, well, this is exactly. But the bit where he goes to attack and she's like, "Nah, fuck you," it just counters him. I'm like, oh my god, Nintendo, you're actually showing why. Yes, this is why people love Samus. She's a fucking badass. Like, and it's just like, oh, I'm just so hyped right now just talking about it. But it's just like, that's why it's so good, you know. And but I don't want to keep gushing about the Metroid trailer. So we'll chuck it back to you, unless you guys have anything more you want to say about good stuff on
Gamers
trailers.
Gambit reacts to the Metroid trailer should be the new name of this.
Yeah.
But I'll chuck it back to you, Jack. Like, have you got any examples of like maybe bad trailers or things that don't get you as hyped for games?
So I guess it's where you've got mixed content in a single video. For me personally, I know you mentioned it, that's what you like, having like a cinematic video and a gameplay video blended together. I don't like that at all.
Okay.
I think it's, if you got a cinematic video which tells a story and a narrative, and then you got a gameplay video which is a separate entity, that for me is how you should do it. But obviously when you see the two mixed in a single video, for me that turns me off. I'm just like, really? Why? It's just unnecessary. Like, they're two completely different things, and I think they should be treated as such. Yeah, I mean, it's bad cinematics, and it's hard for me because I am very much a cinematic person. So if I see something that's like hype as hell, like Kena Bridge of Spirits, I'm like all over that. If it's something, it's hard for me because I don't really have like bad, like, for me a cinematic is a cinematic, and a trailer is kind of like just something I'll watch, and I'll either be hype about it or I won't. I wouldn't say it's a bad way of portraying it, more than anything else. Probably not the best person to answer that one, to be honest, because I kind of just like lots of cinematography. So
yeah, I was going to ask you, saying about you don't like the trailers being split, because I think with the going back to Metroid, not intentionally, it's just a good example. I think in that the cinematics are straight from the game; they're not like made specifically for that trailer. So, like, to me, when you have cinematics that are straight from the game, chopped up and put in with gameplay, I think that tells an interesting story, because you're going to see that stuff, but you're actually going to have context as to when it happens, where it happens, and all these sort of things. That's why I like those trailers when they do that, where it's like in-game, could be a bit from the intro, could be a bit from the middle of the game, probably not that far into the game. But like a lot of that stuff, I'm like, I get to see this when I play the game. This isn't just built for a trailer specifically. And I quite like that, because I think you get a good narrative of what's happening, and then some of the gameplay related to that and things. But I can understand why you almost see it as like it's a short movie, like a 3-minute short movie, like of the game being from the perspective of like, this is in game, or like, you know, this is a cinematic showing off these fucking badass characters or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like I will watch games or follow games purely for the cinematography of it and purely for the story and the narrative. I've given examples like League of Legends, for example. Their whole season has been about Vigil, and I've just been watching because I'm like, oh, this is so cool, like so awesome. Just watching this story develop, even though I don't necessarily put hours and hours into the game itself. So for me, splitting that up and then adding gameplay just takes away from the whole narrative you're telling. But obviously for people who are fans of the game and actually play the game for, like, you know, the MOBA that it is, then obviously you need the patch notes, you need those actual guides on, this is the character, the new character we're bringing out, this is how he works, this is his skills, etc. For me, that's not of interest to myself. But it's, which is why I think it's good to split them up, so that you've got the audiences who want to watch the cinematography of it and the story, and then those who actually play the game and want to learn more about the characters, or want to know more about how the map works, etc.
Yeah, that makes sense. Chuck it to you, Greg. Got any things you want to say about,
like, obviously you can see from my face, I'm more or less diametrically opposed to that point of view, and like, obviously I don't like cinematic anime, but you know, it's an opinion. So there's absolutely nothing I can really say about that, other than, you know, different tastes for different folks about what gets you hyped about a game. I would say the only thing that I consider like bad about a video game trailer is when I'm left, like, especially for indie games, you don't generally see this with AAA publishers. They generally have very good people on marketing and people who are very good at putting trailers together. But occasionally you do, and it's generally when you watch a trailer, you see the game in action, and you're left wondering, like, I don't understand what that was trying to tell me. I don't understand what kind of game this is. it's when they fuck up the communication to the audience. That you need to be telling the audience what this is, and why it's different, why they should play. There are some games that just get bad trailers where there is unique gameplay, where there is something really good to be found in there, but the trailer just doesn't convey that. It doesn't show the right parts, and it can be very difficult for some games. Look at, for example, Crusader Kings 3. I believe that the trailers that I saw for Crusader Kings 3 were all live acted.
Yeah.
And that makes sense for a game like Crusader Kings 3. Showing the gameplay of Crusader Kings 3 is not exciting. It's kind of a spreadsheets and a map game. There's not a lot of visual excitement to be cut together there at all. So they got live actors to do this stuff, and they had like someone playing the Spy Master, and you know, I don't remember the details of the trailers, but they left an impression on me, because I was like, oh, that's kind of like pithy and clever and witty, and it's showing that the game doesn't necessarily take itself too seriously. Like, you know, be killing your aunt to do this, and your Spy Master is trying to betray you, and you're kind of like, you're like a dumb king. You're just like a fucking average dude who's put on a crown, because you are, at the end of the day, just a dude or a lady playing a video game. And yeah, those are great examples. I'm back onto good examples, but yeah, it's just a contrast of that with a game that doesn't really tell you what you'll be doing in the game.
It's hard with something like Crusader Kings that is like a grand strategy. How do you explain that to someone simply? You know what I mean? That is not you need to watch like an hour-long gameplay.
That's why I was so impressed. They did it. They came up with a really creative idea to sell that, because really that is not anyone's favorite job. When you're the trailer guy and you get stuck with, okay, sell this grand strategy game. Whew, that's a tough one, and they did a great job.
Wasn't it? I haven't seen the trailer. I think Jack has, but wasn't it Age of Empires 4? There's a whole fucking trailer about a trebuchet, and they're just launching shit from it.
Yeah, that was so. What that was a deep dive into history. So they tried to like teach people about the history of siege weapons, well, all sorts of things, like history of the bow, history of the crossbow, history of castle making and moats, and the one that they showed off was a trebuchet, like how a trebuchet works and the mechanics of a trebuchet. And it was like a live action 5-minute video, which was really informative, really interesting. And I said they put loads of them throughout the whole game, which is a way for them to actually kind of teach people about history rather than it be like a fantasy world. I just think it's a really cool adaptation. Like, why not? Like, it's just
but also,
a little bit of
trebuchet is a meme. I think that's why they picked trebuchet specifically. Yeah, there's a whole like trebuchet subreddit. So trebuchets are a big meme.
Didn't know that was a thing.
Maybe neither of you knew that. That's all I took away from seeing that. Trebuchets. Oh, they did that. Interesting.
Yeah, right, it's really cool though. It is really cool. It just adds another level and just a little bit of fun.
Yeah. I mean, I've got plenty of stuff. Like, I don't want to go too hard into these trailers and stuff like and be super negative, but I do want to bring up my faults with these two trailers. Basically,
you're going to talk about Midnight Suns.
I will, but after Saints Row. I want to start with Saints Row because I think Saints Row, right? I just want to say this right now. Everything after that initial cinematic trailer about Saints Row has me excited for the game. Here is an example of a very strange trailer and then a tiny bit, like 10 seconds of gameplay at the end of it. It was very weird because then they did a gameplay trailer later on, like a few days later, I think it was. And they showed some stuff off and it was cool. This is an example of like a sequel or a reboot or an IP that has history by being quite wacky in some aspects. But Saints Row 3, I think a lot of people look at that one and go, it's kind of grounded, but it's really funny. There's like missions where you're driving around in a car with a tiger slapping you, and there's ones where you're driving in a tank and blowing stuff up. There's insurance fraud where you're trying to like get hit by cars and make as much money as possible. Like, it's grounded in the sense it's in a big city and you're a gang, but then next thing you know, you've got a giant dildo bat and you're beating the shit out of like a gang member who's dressed as a luchador. It has a very like setting and then very just crazy silliness. And this new Saints Row trailer came out, and I've watched it quite a few times now. And having read what Volition want to do and what they want to bring to the game versus that trailer is night and day. And I think this is where they've kind of misstepped, because I think what they've done here in this trailer is, instead of looking maybe at some of the slightly wackier elements of Saints Row, they've tried to show a slightly grounded trailer, which I don't think really it didn't feel enough like the original Saints Row 1 and 2, but not like 3 and 4. And what I learned was there's 3 gangs in the game, and this particular gang that they show off in the trailer where they steal the weapons from is like the most boring gang of the 3. You've got one gang that's like all high tech and it's got a cowboy for like the manufacturer. He's got this proper like dude with Stetson and like everything. I'm like, he looks nuts. And then the other one was like the guy who's got the cat helmet on. That gang is just full of like these fucking dancing futuristic people that are like, it's just wacky shit. But they picked the gangs that are just big guys and melee weapons. And I just think to myself, I just feel like they didn't portray the game in its best light. When you think Saints Row, you generally think lots of destruction, lots of mayhem, and I didn't get a vibe from that, apart from one thing in that trailer, which was the rocket launcher that fired out like 9 rockets. I was like, that's a pretty sweet weapon. And I think with this reveal trailer, I think if they'd lent into maybe them suddenly hijacking a tank or like something a bit stupid like that, I think it would have gone over better. And I think what we've seen with this particular trailer is the reaction to the characters hasn't been particularly like, I mean, obviously we haven't played the game. We don't know how they are and how they're going to turn out. But I wasn't that interested in some teenage people trying to have a startup, and it just didn't appeal to me. There was the guy with the cat helmet on wasn't necessarily funny, and you had the guy with the glasses trying to like, he's like, I want to make a startup, and it just felt weird. It was just a weird trailer, and I think I came away like very disappointed. But then when I go and read all the things I've read and seen like the gameplay stuff, I'm like, it's like night and day. I don't understand what happened there. I just feel like they did not show the game in the best light that people know Saints Row to be. And I think also setting it in like a deserty brown area might not be the best thing. But again, like now I'm like, oh cool, I actually think this game's going to be good. But I can see why people were turned off from this trailer. And you know, I'm nothing against
you. To say on that.
Yeah. Well,
there's 2 possibilities, and one is that they're just trying to sell it to a particular audience who's maybe not the audience that really wants that game.
Sure.
And like, you know, the more grounded, they're trying to bring in more of the mainstream, as Jack was saying before, more of the GTA crowd. And then actually maybe they like the game and they keep playing it, even though it's a little different from what they were expecting. The other thing is perhaps, and this has happened with Midnight Suns, perhaps it's a case of changing the narrative, because something comes out and there's backlash, and it's like, oh, actually, it's more like this. That can't be the case with Saints Row, really, because it's gameplay that takes a long time to program. But it's interesting, and I'll just leave it at this with the Midnight Sun stuff. But I think Jake Solomon just came out recently after having said repeatedly, this game is nothing like XCOM. And then the last stream, he was like, actually, it's more like XCOM than you think. And I was about like, is that changing the narrative? Is he saying that now because I think that's bullshit.
Yeah, and right, let's talk about Midnight Suns. Now, Midnight Suns has a fucking fantastic reveal trailer, right? There's no gameplay, just really cool, good use of music, right? I mean, it looked cool, right? It was visually like quite appealing.
It's a cinematic. You know my opinion on that.
Yeah, it was just like
gameplay.
It's like, oh, awesome, Iron Man, Captain America, Punisher, not Punisher, Blade, and cool. And then the gameplay trailer came out, and to be honest, I'm pretty confident the game's going to be good, right? And I've had a lot of time to stew on this, and so my original issue was I saw these card mechanics, and I was like, oh man, like that's not really my thing, but like maybe it'll be all right. And then they didn't explain it in the gameplay trailer, and I was like, why didn't they explain this? Why didn't they spend more time focusing on the other things outside of combat? And I was like, why didn't they just do a gameplay reveal? It was like 5 minutes long that was focused on the game, just the meat and veg, the playing of a fight. Because I think what happened was, what got lost in translation was, they showed the car mechanics, they didn't show anybody moving on a level. They just showed them attacking, which you think, oh yeah, flashy attacks. But there was confusion, right? And maybe that was intended, I don't know. And, the card mechanics, for some people, probably going to turn them off. Like, I'm not a big fan, but I'm willing to give this a go if I know how it works. And since then, you've sent me some stuff, and it seems like that you suit them out with cards, and they're randomly drawn every turn. And I think you keep them in your hand until you use them, and I think you have to get like power to use some of the big abilities. Now that's fine, right? Like if they want to do that, that's fine. Nothing against the developers, there's not an issue. But I think it's okay for people to criticize it in a sense that is, hey, this is a turn-based strategy game. You're adding an element of randomness, which may be appealing to some people because it's similar to roguelike games. Fair enough. You're going for that sort of thing. But like someone like me who likes to know what my loadout is on a character and let me pick when to use those things, I'm not sure how I feel about that. And I'm not saying it's going to completely ruin the game. I don't think that at all. Right? I'm disappointed in the way they've done it, but it doesn't mean the game's going to be bad. I actually think the game looks.
I've got to jump in just with what I feel is a correction because
sure.
With the RNG stuff, XCOM, you know what you can do, and then you basically roll to see if you succeed. In these card games, you roll to see what you end up with in your hand, but then you know exactly what that card is going to do, which is kind of an inversion. And I think it's about the same amount of randomness, in my opinion.
So the reason why I prefer the way XCOM, I don't want to compare this to X, even whatever they're saying, like it's its own thing, right? And that's fine. But the reason why I don't mind it in XCOM is in XCOM, you have an ability that you can use at any point. And there are cooldowns, but you get to choose if you want to use that turn 1. You get to use if you turn 15, whatever. The problem I have, so the chance to hit is basically your randomness. You've got 70% chance to hit. Yes, that's going to fuck you over sometime, but that's okay. You know that you're going to fire this gun, and I've got X amount of chance to hit. What that lets me do is at least it lets me plan a strategy. So on my turn, I'll be like, right, I'm going to attempt to fire with you, I'm going to move you, and then I'm going to chuck a smoke grenade with you. And I can do that because I already have that kit. The problem I have on a personal level with the randomness of cards is I might know that I've got really good abilities that synergize, but suddenly I'm no longer playing the game how I wanted to play it if I don't draw those cards. Now, I don't know how many cards you draw per turn. I don't know how many you can keep, right? So I'm not entirely sure this is how it works, but it comes across to me as if I've got a character and this person has a really good area of effect clearing, or like maybe it freezes all these enemies in the thing, and then my other character has this like thing that does extra damage against freezing. I'm like, I have to rely on RNG of those moves coming up for me to then do that strategy. And if that doesn't happen, I'm now not playing the game how I would choose to play it. And that's where my issue lies, because I want to play the game with the abilities I have. I don't necessarily want to be limited to like not being able to use that one in that particular situation.
And let's not get too far off the topic of trailers.
I will say this is similar. It looks like it's going down a route similar to Tainted Grail, which is a game I absolutely love, where you get the different card mechanics and you discard cards every turn. What it does is add complexity, but also fun. So yes, you don't get to do everything the same way that you would on XCOM, but that's okay. I think having the card mechanic just adds a whole different dynamic to the game and how combat works. Yes, it might be different, but I, for one, actually really enjoy it because it kind of spices up your battles. It means you get to try new things. You don't always do the same, use attack 1, 2, then 3, rinse, repeat. It gets boring. It's kind of like, I can do that. I can play WoW and, just use the same 50 abilities in the same order over and over and over again. It's repetitive. This game forces you to spice up your tactics and change your battle scenarios depending on what cards you draw. So you get to do things differently and you get to experiment and get to play a little bit differently rather than just doing the same rinse and repeat moves over and over. I mean, that's how I would see it anyway.
I think we are getting off the topic of trailers a bit.
Yeah.
But I have something that will bring us back that's related to Midnight Suns that I do want to talk about. Unless you want to go first, Levi.
All I was going to say was my point, I know it's a bit off rails, but my point of it was when you show gameplay trailer and you have a mechanic that we didn't know until they showed off.
You need to explain it better, definitely.
Yeah, that could be divisive. All I wanted from the gameplay trailer was, I know you can walk around and you can talk to others. There's all this other cool stuff. But I would have loved it if they were like, hey, today we're just looking at the gameplay. This is your loadout. This is in the game. Because like I said, people didn't even know. I saw tweets of this. They didn't even know you could move. I just wanted to see that. Not because it doesn't matter whether if I like the card system or not. I just wanted to see how it played. And I'd be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And the gameplay trailer did kind of fail to do that. And that was why I didn't necessarily like the trailer as much, because it was like, yeah, you're showing off these abilities, but what's the movement options like? What's the loadout system like? You know, when you go into battle, like just even if it was half a battle, I would have preferred that over the rest of the stuff they showed in that gameplay trailer. And to me, I think that's where the trailer fell on its face. Was just there were things that needed to be explained more, and I think they could have done a trailer later on talking about the stuff outside of the combat. And I think personally that would have been gone over better with a lot of people.
The trailer clearly creates more questions than answers, and that is not the sign of a good trailer, because it just leaves you asking what and why.
People were just confused about that particular gameplay mechanic, and that was it. And that's why I was going off on one of my reasons for it. But that's the thing that I think was, hey, this trailer's really good, but please can you explain this one mechanic a bit more, or just show a bit more of it? And I think if they'd done that, no problem, or a lot less negativity.
Yeah.
Well, I think what they've clearly done is they have clearly been, I think, deliberately kind of dribbling out the gameplay, and there's a strategy to this. Because had they just come out and said, hey, this is a Marvel strategy game, a lot of people would have been like, cool, that's not my bag. But what they did was they showed the cinematics first, and this is inherently dishonest. This is why I don't like cinematic trailers, and I don't tend to get hyped until I see gameplay, which I didn't in this case until I saw gameplay. But a lot of people did get hyped. A lot of people were like, holy shit, look at all these Marvel characters, I can't wait to play. A lot of people thought it was going to be like XCOM. Some people thought it was just people who clearly weren't like reading news or anything, they just saw the trailer, were like, oh, is it going to be an action RPG? Is it going to be like Marvel Ultimate Alliance or Lego, as I went through in my video? But I think the point of that was to get all of these people who are just interested in Marvel, get them hyped up, get them say, yeah, you're interested in this? It's a card game. You still interested? And a lot of people are going to go, fuck you, no, this is bullshit. But some people are going to go, all right, yeah, I'll stick with this. I'll give this a go. And I mean, I think that's how a lot of us get into genres for the first time. Often it's a gateway. Maybe like, you know, with the new Pokemon MOBA, it's probably getting a whole generation of kids into MOBAs that they wouldn't try otherwise, but it's got Pokemon in it.
Yeah.
And things like that, the Minecraft dungeons. And so I think that was the strategy, I think.
You bring up a good point, because you know how Jack earlier said about like don't make your trailers too far away from the gameplay. It's kind of hard with a card game, right, and a turn-based game. How do you make a trailer that's that epic and kind of and I get like again nothing
Indies will, but AAA's won't. AAA's need that full CGI shit.
I mean, you got to understand, like for us, people that follow a lot of studios, we know a lot of names. When 2K comes up and you see Firaxis, you're like, probably turn-based, because that's what they do. They do Civ and they do XCOM. That's what they're known for. And so you're like, okay, cool, that sounds like fun. And to some lot of casual people that just see the Marvel characters, probably you're right, are gonna go, fucking hell, Marvel, awesome, Wolverine, holy shit, Punisher. I keep calling Punisher Blade, and it's like, you know, that's gonna sell them on it. And you're right. I think the strategy was show the Marvel characters doing badass and looking badass. And then when they do it, the gameplay trailer doesn't show those card mechanics to start with. It's like, we've got cards, and you're like, where did that come from? That's a bit random.
And it's dishonest, but if it works, if it gets people to play the game, then it's like, I can't really hold it against them. That's what the strategy is for. And ultimately, this is a lot of people that worked hard on the game and wanted to do well. They wanted to maybe get a sequel. They just wanted to do well. So can I really hold it against them for that?
Well, it's like you just got to kind of take it, you know, as is. And I will say this: look, both Saints Row and both Midnight Suns, I think they messed up in some aspects with their trailers. I think the games are going to be great. I think they're going to be well made and all this sort of stuff. And I will probably look into both of them. But to me, I'm just like, go back to the drawing board and just think about what you're showing off and like what you know the things you're doing. Please just go back and just expand upon things a little bit, and it'll be like fine.
Yeah, I think the gameplay trailer experience was different for different people, because I clearly took something, because I've already played Slay the Spire. I think that was a clearly...
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's like this, it's like that. I understand the gameplay, whereas a lot of other people seemingly were just like, the fuck is this mobile card shit? You're going to be opening loot boxes?
I'm glad
they clearly miscalculated on some level.
Yeah, and they came out and they've said, no, it's all in game and stuff. And that's because in the gameplay trailer, you do see like a thing land and open, and it was like, you probably shouldn't have shown that. Like, I think you actually shot yourself in the foot there as well. Yeah, and this is the problem, right? Like, I don't want to sit here and slag these companies off, right? They're making games. Games can be, strategy games, big open
Come
world.
on, give them a good slag.
Fuck
Yeah,
them.
you want
Fuck them. You don't deserve my money. You didn't sell me your product, and I didn't pre-order it. But like, it happens all the time. These are just two recent examples of trailers that, for me, just kind of failed in some areas. But like, there will be more trailers. That's the thing. There will be more trailers. Saints Row will get more gameplay trailers. Marvel will probably get like playthroughs, and we'll read things and see things and stuff like that. And that's good. Like, I'm glad we live in a day and age where we will get multiple stuff. Because at the end of the day, we can only go off what we've seen. This is all we've got of these games so far. So we can only judge what we see. And if I walk away and go, oh, I'm not really sure about those card mechanics, and the next trailer they show me some proper like gameplay, I'm like, all right, I'm sold now. You've sold me on that. But you definitely stumbled, but now you sold me. And I think that's what's kind of the thing with these games is that there is more trailers coming. There will be playthroughs. There will be all this stuff out there that we'll be able to see, and it will probably change my mind on stuff. But yeah, I think it's hard. New IP, new IP with like Marvel Midnight Suns. I wouldn't want to be a AAA studio making new IP sometime.
You still don't want to buy the new Metroid game? Here, there's Kraid in it.
No, why'd you say
some
that?
People will.
Why did you say that? Why did
Spoilers.
you spoil it?
Everyone's seen the trailer by now. That's what they put it in the trailer for.
I was trying so hard not to bring that up. Oh well. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
If you haven't watched that trailer by now, it's been out for like 2 weeks. Then
I know, but it's just one of those things, isn't it? It's just like that's a nice surprise for someone who hasn't seen it. But yeah, I mean that's kind of like I've got a couple of things written down here that these are interesting points to me. Are things maybe not to do in a trailer is like sometimes you get trailers that don't give you enough info. Sometimes not enough gameplay. Sometimes fake trailers, and fake trailers I mean Watch Dogs. The original Watch Dogs was like way fake. Like it was the mission exists in game, and it was a really cool trailer, but the way the game looked was like beyond anything the game actually is. And Killzone 2 is another one from back in the day where Sony completely were like, yes, it's totally in game, nothing like the trailer. Stuff like that, don't do that. And then you got the opposite end of it where you show too much gameplay, and Nintendo are notorious for doing that. They show fucking everything, and it's like, no, you've shown enough of X game. Move on to something else. Like, I don't need to, I mean, that's down to me, admittedly. But I'm going to watch those trailers. You're going to put those trailers out. I'm going to watch them. It's my own fault, but don't do it.
Don't tempt me, Frodo.
I know. That's kind of my, like, just generally my whole feelings on sort of good and bad trailers. I know I'm a little bit more, like, antsy with it, but I think it is worth bringing up and just saying, look, I think there is a nice line, and I'm totally cool with cinematic trailers and gameplay ones being separate. Personally, I like a mix because, especially if it's a brand new game getting shown off and you've got a 2-minute trailer, I'm like, give me a bit of both. Cool, I'm fine with that.
To be fair, I think the games that we watch are very different. So I think the games that you tend to play, such as Metroid, would generally tend to lend themselves better to having a mixed bag, like a mixed cinematic or a mixed trailer. Whereas the kind of things that I like are very high graphics orientated. So like Horizon Forbidden West, for example, I wouldn't, whilst it's great that there's some gameplay in that, I'd love to see the cinematics and the sort of the animation and how beautiful is this world? Like how amazing can you make it? Like make it Avatar-esque type of thing. Whereas, to be fair, a game like that, you can literally show gameplay and it basically be a cinematic anyway. Like that's how graphically incredible that game looks. But
I have a question for you, Greg, because I'm genuinely curious. Like, obviously, we haven't seen anything of Metroid Prime 4. If next year they show off to start with like a cinematic trailer of like Samus landing on a planet or whatever the fuck she's doing and no gameplay, would that at least interest you?
The question is, would I watch it? And that's a hard question to answer. I might start watching it and then stop if it's too much. The fact that I'm running a YouTube channel, I probably would watch it so that I can react to it. That has changed things.
Yeah.
That's the real question. Would I even want to watch it? Because if it's a cinematic, then it's not going to sell me on the game. I certainly am already going to buy the game. And if it's a cinematic, then it's likely to be just story. So I would tend to prefer to leave story for the actual game. But would I get excited? Yes, but I would be trepidatious about seeing too much. Of course, I would watch it though. ain't
only
got
reason,
the power steel.
the only reason I asked is I was thinking to myself, I was like, this game is getting, hyped up. We know retro work and all this sort of stuff. But I was wondering, like, because I know a gameplay trailer. If you watch the gameplay trailer and they're like doing the scanning and you've got new guns and all this other shit, I was like, I could see you losing your shit, like legit, just being like, ah. But I was curious about a cinematic one just because of what we've discussed here today. Because I was like, maybe he'd be interested. I don't.
I see. This is why Metroid Dread trailer was so hyped, because it's a Sakamoto game. He's like the OG Metroid creator. He can change the canon, whereas Metroid Prime is all made by Retro and they're all prequels. So you can't do anything too crazy when it's set like between Metroid and Metroid 2. Like, we know exactly what's going to happen. We know that the Metroids all have to survive so that they can die in Metroid 2. There have been some small changes, like they changed Ridley's appearance in the remake of Samus of Metroid 2 to show that he has died and been rebuilt like 3 times at this point, and he's got like a metal body. But like, ultimately, I don't. That's an unfortunate thing about the Metroid Prime franchise, is that they are beholden to the main series. They are a branch family, so to speak, a cadet branch.
Yeah, no, it's just there are always going to be certain games where, like, I'm gonna want to watch gameplay cinematics no matter what, like no matter what it is. Like we know there's a new Time Splitters being made. Like, you want to see me lose my shit? I am fucking ready for a new Time Splitters, and that's a game that I would be totally fine with seeing a cinematic before gameplay. But like, there are always going to be games like that where I'm like, hey, this franchise has been dormant for a while. You gonna bring it back? And that's what happened with Advance Wars, which I wasn't expecting. So, oh, Nintendo, hey, you gonna bring back F-Zero? You gonna give me an F-Zero trailer? Are we gonna do this? And like,
on Time Splitters, the trailer that would sell me for Time Splitters is not a gameplay or a cinematic. It would be the picture of 4 people in a room arguing and just the split screen on the screen. Yeah. I want to see the real time. I want to see the GoldenEye multiplayer experience of people punching each other on a couch.
Like Mario Kart back in the day.
Yeah.
It is interesting, and I think this is what's really cool about like trailers. Like Saints Row trailer, I didn't like very much. Jack thought it looked pretty cool, and I like the fact that there are going to be obviously like different things are going to sell you on different games and whatnot. And I think overall, I think video game trailers are fucking important for both consumers and for developers, because they're trying to market to you, and you need to see whatever it is you personally need to see from a trailer why you want to buy that product. And it is hype when they play on nostalgia and stuff and you get sequels. But when you get like new IPs like Kena, which looks fucking fantastic, or you get like I'm trying to think with some other games, that there's like some smaller indie games I've seen in the like Nindies Direct thing, where I'm like, yeah, all right, I've no idea what this game is, but I'm in, like, and I think it's really cool when you get to see something that's different, whether it be art style that's appealing, whether it be the music, whether it be gameplay.
Anime tits. If you're a Xenoblade fan,
there are no anime tits in that game.
I was just, when you said like we all have different things we want to see in a trailer, different things that are going to draw us in. I was thinking fans of anime games, they just want to see tits. They're simple creatures.
Yeah. So I mean, I've probably exhausted everything I want to say. Do you guys have anything you want to finish up on?
No, I think
I've read a lot. I think you should speak, Jack. Unless
I think I've covered everything I wanted to go over.
Fair enough. I feel like this definitely was a topic for me this week. It was really niggling at me, and I was like, I just need to fucking vent this, and I've done that, and I've done it in a way that I feel is fair and not harsh. But fucking get your trailers right, because I'm sick of this.
If Jack, you've got nothing to say, I have things to add. Final closing words.
Go on.
Is that like, you got to make sure the tits are up front and center in the trailer. That's where you're going to get your fans straight in. But other than that, just going into the final last thing I want to talk about is spoilers in trailers, because this is salient to games as well. This is a very big thing that I found myself discussing. Even the ethics of my own channel. What do I show on the thumbnails if I'm reacting to a trailer?
Not that one.
Well, I've done the same thing both for that and for the Total War trailer. And here's the thing. Well, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I feel like I'm in the same seat as developers here, where specifically me, I'm a small channel and I want to grow. So it's like I have to show things that will get people to click the video. but that thing, is it bad to show this? I have to justify it to myself. I have to go, well, they might not have watched the trailer at all, but I've shown this thing that is going to get them to click to watch it, specifically my reaction to the trailer, or what I'm excited about. And I think it's that same narrative with game and film trailers. It's very common these days to hear this trailer showed too much. They practically spoiled the whole film, and I really empathize with that. Like I've mentioned before, the Blade Runner 2049 trailer. So much respect, because within 5 minutes of watching the film, you're finding out things that you didn't know from watching the trailer. It closed off so much, and it really left everything a mystery. And the film didn't do well. Nobody went to go see it, even though it was a fucking incredible, critically acclaimed movie. Because, well, probably largely because of that. They didn't go hard enough. They didn't sell people enough on what that film is going to include. And it's a difficult sell when it's a mystery kind of thriller film. And people are saying the same about Dread. You've shown too much. We don't want to see this much in the trailer, even. And like for me, it's like, well, people are going to watch the trailer anyway. I'm going to show certain things in thumbnails, but specifically on the trailer, it's like, if there are people that were already going to buy this game, they're not going to not buy this game because they saw a spoiler. As sucky as that may be, they're not going to not buy the game. But people who weren't going to buy the game may buy the game because of how hype it is, because they're like, oh, well, it's got this. Okay, I'll give it a go. Go on.
No, it's just like you said. I was doing that. You said about seeing spoilers and still buying it. I was like, that's me. You're right. Like we said earlier, trailers are an art, and there are things like I don't want to see too much of the trailer, but it clearly works. It clearly makes people buy stuff, and it's just it's interesting because I'm literally sat here just thinking of trailers in my head that I've seen over the years from different E3s and different events. I'm like, man, there aren't many I can think that I've like watched and been like, that was a bit shit.
It's that continuum. There is a continuum of like art to sales strategy, and there can be like somewhere in the middle where it's kind of a bit of both.
And the anime tits in the middle.
Now, the anime tits are above.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, like, it's just it's kind of one of those things that's really fascinating. I would love to learn more about like kind of the psychology and stuff behind it, just because, like you said, like you can have amazing trailers with no spoilers, and it doesn't always work. So, but yeah, I think that about covers it. Which is
I would like to see. I think we should all react to this Matrix trailer coming out tomorrow on that topic, because I'm curious to see what strategy they're going to go with this. And in light of this discussion we've had, they're going to show. They're
too much or too little.
Yeah.
I was just going to show Keanu Reeves going, "There is no spoon." Is he in it?
Apparently, they've released 180,000 teasers on the website, just loads of little clips. I haven't checked this out, but that's their marketing strategy.
Interesting.
Jesus. That's madness. All right. Well, that'll right about do it for us, folks. Thank you all so very much for tuning in. If you want to find us, so I'm donHaize. I run my own channel, so youtube.com/donHaize, and also donHaize Plays. You can find Greg at eGregious Games, and you can find Killjoy at the Engineering Bay. I will have descriptions in the links. Links in the descriptions below. So if you have time, check them out. And yeah, thanks very much for tuning in. And as always, until the next time, peace.